Let's date forever. Here's your weekly dose of relationship fuel with Sammy and Nathan Yeager. Hello and welcome to Date Forever. In this week's episode, we're chatting about having absolute trust in your partner and relationship, balancing feminine and masculine energy in your relationship, and maintaining individual lives and avoiding codependency. We're going to dive straight into this week's ep, so over to you, Sammy.
Today we've got Susan Dean joining us. Susan was always destined to help others flourish. Beginning her career as a youth worker, Susan became qualified in business, relationship and life coaching in 2003. She was an early adopter to the industry. Susan has always listened to people's stories, using her tremendous empathy to empower others towards success. This has become her signature trait, now owning and operating a publishing house. Susan lives her dream every day and now teaches others how sharing your story can grow your brand and business and leave a legacy. Welcome to the show, Susan.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's really exciting to have you.
Gosh, what that bio didn't say, and you're on a podcast all about relationships, is that you've also been married for quite some time.
Yes, that is right. I am going to be married for 34 years in February the 12th. I was proposed to on Valentine's Day. And we got married as close as we could to that date, basically when I was 21. So I was married at 21 and now, in my 50s. And so been married for 34 years in Feb.
Yeah, that's amazing. And to give that some context, that's almost the exact same age as me. I'll be 34 in the first week of March next year. So
there you go. I've been married as long as you've been born. There you go.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about your experience and what you've learned, because I'm sure there's a lot. But maybe where should we start? Do you want to give us a little snappy love story? How did you meet?
Well, yeah, I was at school at the time, and one of my best girlfriends worked at KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Probably back when it was known as Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Exactly. And I had gone with her to payday where we all picked up our cash envelopes, and I wasn't working there, but I went with her this particular day and I sort of saw the cook through the front register part. And I didn't sort of say anything to my girlfriend because, I knew she'd say something. It was still that young age where you're like, oh, I think I like him. Anyway.
My friend likes your friend.
Exactly. So I was like, I didn't want to tell her that. But anyway, long story short, I feel like there was this connection that I didn't even really know. And funny enough, at the time, his mum looked quite young. And I remember him getting in the car because his mum picked him up because he didn't have his license. He was 17. And I remember thinking, oh, is that his girlfriend? He's got a girlfriend in my head. Anyway, long story short, my girlfriend had a horse, which meant she needed 2 part-time jobs. So she also worked at the showgrounds, and she met a guy at the showgrounds, and it just so happened he came in on this particular day and started talking to Michael. And so my girlfriend sort of said, well, this is the guy I met at the show. I thought he was coming in to see me, and he's talking to Michael out the back. Anyway, we figured out that I liked him and she liked him, and we literally sat out the front and said, well, why don't you go out with him and I'll go out with him, because they know each other and then we can still hang together. And that was literally what we said. You go out with him and we can hang together. So they both lived in one suburb and we lived in the other. So we used to catch the bus to them, and then my girlfriend would go to his house and I'd go to Michael's, and then it's been great. And we've now grown up. We had children at the same time. We were in each other's wedding. So we've grown together, and she's married, and a group of us are all long-term married people, because the guys were like, have you got any other friends for my mates? So now we've just got this amazing group of friends that we've known for decades, and all our kids know each other. And, we just have the best holidays away where we get to hang with our adults friends and our kids as adults now. My oldest daughter is 30 in January, and literally they hang out together too. So that's the long and the short. But we kind of met from part-time jobs.
KFC days.
KFC days.
Oh, love stories begin.
Yeah, as oily, sweaty teenagers in the back of KFC, and you looked at him and you went, I'll have some of that.
finger licking good.
Oh, Nathan. So was going to be one of my questions around like what are some of the ingredients you feel have helped you arrive at a 30-something long year marriage and still, super healthy, happy, thriving. But I'm going to guess that it's been some of the relationships and networks and friendships that you've surrounded yourself with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I get asked a lot of the times, what makes the relationship so great? And I believe relationships are obviously, there's the relationship to your partner. There's the relationship to yourself. There's the relationship to your children. They're all relationships, but they're all unique and different in their own way. I think the overarching thing that I always say is, I know that you've got a little mantra that goes with yours, and mine is when your relationships are working well, so do you. And I think that goes when your relationships are working well with your partner, you feel happy. You feel so much better when your relationship to your children or yourself. So it's all around relationships. But with a partner, it was trust. We just had this absolute trust. And I'm a believer that worry about it when it happens. It's no use having all these emotions of fear or lack of trust, all of those things in your space if they're not warranted yet. So I remember being so young, we laugh about it now, and I remember I come from a place where I felt, even though when Michael and I met, he just thought that I was amazing, which is so great, and he still does now. So that's just, I'm going with that. He reckons that he had a vision of me, and he was just, that was it. He was sold. And it's still that love there. So, but I think the trust, always trusted, he could go out with his friends and get home at all hours of the morning. And for me, it was absolute trust. And when I was young, I would say to him, you're going to leave me, that insecurity type thing that we all have, but they're not insecurities about that person. They're from our past. They're from our growing up. And when we put them on the person that we're with, we can drive them away. And I remember once, Michael, we were quite young, and he said, I think I, used to do that. Oh, well, why don't you leave? Why don't we just break up? We're going to anyway. That kind of insecurities. And I remember once he said to me, if you say that once more, I will. And I went, oh, okay. He's kind of put me back in my box here. And he said, I will never play up on you or break up with you without having conversations with you first to see, one, whether we can fix what's not going right. And two, and he said, and I won't go with anybody else or be with anyone else while I'm with you. If I feel the need, I'll talk to you first before, and we will break up before that happens. It was kind of a conversation like that. So I went, okay, let's agree on that. So now I don't have to worry about anything until he may have that conversation. Lucky for me, we've never had to have that conversation. But I think the biggest thing that I give to people is trust. I was more the party animal than him, let me just say. And even when we got married, I remember he'd be like, I'm tired, I got work tomorrow. And I'm like, well, I'm going, see you, bye. And I would go out to the karaoke, to the local pub, and there'd be people there. And I'd come home, and there was just that complete trust. And I think when you've got that trust, you don't want to break it, you don't want to break that trust. But we just had that the whole way. Zero tolerance to do with being with anyone else. Zero tolerance. And let's face it, when you're together for such a long time, you may get attracted to somebody else, or you may turn around and go, oh. But I think when you go, there is no way known I would ever jeopardize this relationship to do that, then I think that it's just a zero tolerance policy. And if I felt that it was that bad that I liked someone else and wanted to go somewhere else, then I need to go back and talk to him about it before I do anything, because we've got something to talk about. There's something serious that if I'm looking out there, something's broken in here in our relationship. So for me, massive trust. We've always had unconditional trust, zero tolerance when it comes to affairs or anything like that, and just communication, always talking about what is up with us so that we can do something about it.
Yeah, I really love that agreement that you've got. And like so often it is the stories that you make up in your own head are so much worse than what could actually, or what is going on, or what could be going on as well. And so just having that openness and transparency and that 100% trust that your partner will come to you and will
Yeah, and sometimes
share
it's
what's going on.
shitty shit that you got to say to each other. Like sometimes it's raw and it hurts, but it damn hurts more if you're going to go do something than fix what's happening in the relationship, than go and have an affair and go, I did this because we weren't making love anymore.
XYZ.
We weren't, speaking to other nicely, whatever that is. The point is that that's just a damn excuse, because you should have gone and done something about it in the relationship before it got to that point. I feel sometimes affairs happen, yeah? I get that, especially in long-term relationships. But I think that they happen because something was broken in the relationship that wasn't concentrated on to fix before looking out there for what's not in the relationship, yeah.
It's really interesting that something as what might be obvious or basic as, hey, let's set up an agreement with one another of how we're going to conduct ourselves and what's our expectation if we aren't happy. If I'm not happy in the relationship, I agree that I'll come to you and tell you about it. I'm up for that, making that agreement. Will you make that agreement with me? And how much certainty and safety that provided you.
100%. And it's that unreasonable. We made a part that it's going to be some shitty stuff too. And I'm going to tell you stuff that you're not going to like. It might be, hey, you're kind of putting on a few pounds here, or hey, are you wearing that lingerie? You haven't got it out of that drawer for lately. Whatever that might be, yeah? Like you got to do that. You got to make things exciting. I mean, there's lots of things to make a relationship exciting, Being married for 34 years, you got to spruce things up if you're with each other, yeah? And we have date nights. We always have date nights. So Friday night is date night, whatever that might be. If we don't feel like going out, it's stopping and watching a movie, and it might be getting takeaway. It might be doing different things like that. And also going out, still going out, even though getting older, it doesn't mean you can't still get dressed up and go out and, things like that. So there's lots of little things that make the relationship well, but you've got to work on your relationship. I suppose it's like business. You can't just work in it. You've got to come out and look at it and be aware what's working, what's not working, where can we improve, where can I improve, those conversations. But, yeah, having the hard conversations and being that person that sometimes you're going to hurt them, but you got to have those raw conversations before you do something that's going to hurt them a hell of a lot more.
Yeah. So you mentioned a few little things there that you've got a date night practice, but what are some of the other things that you're doing in your relationship to keep it spruced up and interesting?
Look, I think, we've done some fun things.
You mentioned lingerie.
Yeah, definitely. We just got back from Vegas, and it's really good to take them lingerie shopping because I'm telling you, they buy so much more than what you buy for yourself. So I went shopping. No, get them all. Okay, So we just got back from Vegas, which we can chat about later, but we were launching the book from Dr. John Gray, author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And that's one man that still has like mad sex. Like the reception complained because there was too much noise. And Michael said to me, that was coming out of John Gray's room. Like, and he's in his 70s. He's a whole, you need to get him on your show. He's like, so.
Put him on the hit list.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But we just bought some beautiful lingerie over there. And it was just going shopping. We're on holidays and there was some different and really nice stuff. So things like that, little cute things like that I don't think too many do, but my husband has grabbed my phone and in my contacts, he has changed his name to Michael Loves Susan. I don't know if you can see that. So every time he rings me, it says Michael Loves Susan Dean. That's what comes up as his contact. So that's really cute. So it's just that consistent reminder. Yep, date nights, even going out on your own to usually go out to, say, nightclubs or different, music and things with friends. But we would actually get dressed up and go out and get a hotel room, and he'd go to the bar before me, and we'd walk up and say, "Hi, how are you? What's your name?" And we'd just have so much fun with it. Play along with it and things like that.
Friends of ours did this recently for their anniversary. They pretended like they didn't know each other and had this very cute role play evening, and then just ripped each other's clothes off and went wild. So my friends give that strategy a vote of confidence as well.
Absolutely. But I think honestly it's just about being best friends and liking each other. And so I think that even though you're in a relationship, you've got to work on yourself. And so I think that what's made our relationship stronger is that we both self-developed. And even though sometimes I might be, in a better place and he's not, it's pulling each other up. And I remember a time in our relationship where we'd gone through a really hard time in business, and it was really shitty. And we were just like both doing the old bitching and the blaming and the victim, and we were pulling each other down to the point where I think it was me at the time, said, "I can't do this anymore. We're pulling each other down. Let's just stop talking about this for a while until we're in a better place." And then slowly by slowly we build each other up. But you're going to be in different stages and different places in your life. And so I think it's just riding that with each other and just calling each other out on your shit. You got to, because otherwise then you end up not liking each other, and then the relationship's going to fall apart. So if Michael's kind of doing a bit of a whining and a whinge, I'm just like, man, you're really hard to be around right now. Like, you need to go work your shit out. And the same with me. It's like, damn, I knew this menopause was going to be hard, but like, you need to get your shit together. No, but like, we call each other out on when we're not being at our best, because if you're working on yourself and being your best, you're just going to be admired by the other person, right? But if you're just being this person in life in general and complaining and being a victim and whatever else is happening, I don't care how great your sex is. I don't care how great your relationship is. You can't. It's like hanging around with a pain in the ass friend that just drags you down. When you're in a relationship, you're spending the most time with each other. You got to call each other out on who they're being, and you need to be able to accept that enough to go, okay, I don't agree with you right now while I'm in this mood, but you got to have that time to go away. And as John Gray says, time out. Time out is a really good tool to use if things are getting heated or we're just at loggerheads and we're spiraling. You just go, time out.
Yeah, I can't agree with you enough. I believe that feedback is fuel, and this is definitely something that Nathan and I have worked on getting more comfortable with, like both giving feedback and receiving it, because I don't think either of them are particularly comfortable roles to play. Giving feedback can be like, oh, I really don't want to tell them this. Like maybe it's not a big deal, and then you downplay it for yourself, that's definitely what I've done in the past. And then it's like, no, but it is bothering me. And if I don't say anything, then it's never going to change. And, taking ownership for my part in that as well. But that feedback thing of like, hey, Nath, if I can see something that's getting in your way or hurting our relationship, do I have permission to tell you? And like, if you saw something that I was doing and I was getting in my own way, or I was doing something that was damaging our relationship, like, I want to know. As uncomfortable as it might be in the moment, I want to know. For the greater long-term good, I want to know. But that's definitely a muscle to build, and I love that you've shared that.
Yeah, because you're in this for the long haul. We don't go get married to say we only want to get married for a short time. And if that's the case, just live in a de facto forever. But when we're in a relationship, it's a committed relationship, and whether you do your own vows or whether you did the old, I think I took out love and obey. I said, I don't think I'm going to obey, but like we can, but love and care for each other in sickness and in health. I think I changed it. And they were the conversations we've had. And looking back, those commitments that we had with each other, those trust, just those unconditional things and those agreements with each other are so much more powerful than you might have in a marriage sort of ceremony. It's those conversations that you should have. So I was Dr. John Grace, author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, very first female coach in the world. And I used to run his relationship seminars. And it was quite funny because you'd know who bought who. Because either whoever was crossing their arms like this was bought by the other partner. But by the time they had left, they had their arms around each other and it was lovely and they were holding hands. It was just beautiful. But what was so good is I would do also people that were just about to get married. So I think in anything in life, in business and everything, which is what you're doing here on this podcast, which is so important, is we've got to plan ahead. We've got to think about what we're doing now that comes naturally. We're in the honeymoon phase, we're young, we're passionate, but what are you going to put in place as the foundations for later on? Because it doesn't need to get any worse. You know, I would say our relationship has got stronger the longer that we've been together because, you know, now we're grandparents. We've got this like exciting time where I get to be Nan, his pa, and you get to get that love all over again because when I watch my granddaughter with him, I just go, oh, I picked the best man. Like he's just not the best man for me. He's the best father and the role model for my girls. He's the best role model for my granddaughter. Like, you know, my girls went, that's how a relationship should be. I know now what I want in a relationship. And they've both got beautiful partners. And my youngest daughter just got married in March. And I know they'll last. Like they already have conversations that we had. Like they're like, no, we have conversations that we are going to be together forever. There is no question about it. Rather than sometimes, you know, I sometimes hear people say, well, we'll give it a go and I'm going to be married. But if it doesn't work, well, people get divorced all the time. I think that's such a bad place to come from. You've got to come from that absolute certainty. You'll last forever. And
we've been to a few of those weddings.
Yeah. Like, it's not good. You're setting yourself up to fail. You're just setting yourself up to fail. Whereas when we did a lot of relationship coaching back then where people would come to us and what I thought I would not send anyone else, any other male to any other coach but my husband at the time because I knew his values were to stay together, to work on it, to stay together. Whereas I know there was some relationship coaches out there that would say, well, if it's not working, break up.
Pack it in.
Go your own way. It's like, well, no, how do you not know that if they could work on this, that their relationship would be even stronger than what it was before? So we were just like, no, marriage is forever. There's just no question about that.
We've had, I reckon, upwards of half a dozen or a dozen couples on the show now who have hit some sort of turbulence, rough patch, growth trajectory that they weren't aligned on, and they've gone and sought counseling, coaching, therapy, either as a couple or as an individual, or sometimes both. And almost all of them have just been like, we are infinitely stronger on the other side of this than we were when we went into it. And I think that's such a testament to the choice because, I mean, there's always choice and you can go, do you know what, this is all just too hard and I'm going to go through divorce proceedings, which is also not easy, and somewhat start again and look for somebody else to do life with. But you do get to choose, and there is time, money, and energy that you're going to deploy on both of those options. Staying and making it awesome, or leaving and starting again. They both are going to require an investment. So I love hearing that you were advocating for that. I mean, of course, there's situations where you should leave, where there's domestic violence, where there's abuse, where there's things that are below the line that should never occur in a relationship. Like, I'm not saying people should stay together forever and ever and ever, always in every situation. But I think often there is like, oh, this is too hard. And I think a lot of the anecdotal, I guess, language that we hear socially is like, oh, you deserve better. Know your worth. Get out. Like, you deserve better than that, as opposed to like, hey, maybe you could help that person see your point of view and grow a better, deeper, more loving relationship together rather than just putting it in the bin.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it does. It makes you stronger at the other side. And there's so many benefits to a long-term relationship. Like I said, children and grandchildren and the extended families. I suppose it's like when you talk to people who have had an arranged marriage. Now, they might not know each other, but their commitment to each other is, I'm married to you, you're married to me. No, again, in some circumstances, it's absolutely not okay to stay. But I think sometimes people leave too early. I think people leave for the little things. And I think what they don't realize is if they've got that crap up for them, they're just going to go and attract the same type person, or they're going to bring their shit with them, because it may have been them that was causing or creating a lot of the problems. So I think that's why I say when our relationships are working well, so do we. That's all relationships. And I think the other thing is being the best that you are just makes your partner fall more and more in love with you. I'll do things in business, or I'll do things just in every day. And my husband will say, that's why I love you so much. Like, you really went to a big effort to make that family dinner beautiful, or, the little things that what people don't realize, that when you're doing something, it makes you fall more in love with the other person. So you've got so many more memories, so you fall deeper and deeper in love. And, John Gray's got so many things that teach people, but I think the thing that we learnt from him a lot when we were doing that type coaching and running the relationship course is that men and women are different, and we do have different needs. And I think it's about understanding our differences, and not that things aren't changing a little bit and it's not just one way or another, but we do have feminine energy and masculine energy. And the thing is that our core of who we are is say feminine. And so we've got to remember that as we, start taking on roles and businesses and careers and different things that make us more achievement and accomplishment than be that stay-at-home mum, which was, how it was years ago. We've still got to remember to get back in touch with our feminine, because the men also, need to make sure that they're connecting with their masculine, and then they're not becoming too fuzzy-wuzzy, too carey, because the woman still wants that masculine man. So I think in today's age, what we've got to remember is us women are probably making these men more feminine, because we're wanting them to do all these things and clean and cook and do all of these things for us. But then hang on a minute, we still want our masculine man. So I think it's also being aware of those things is very important these days. And just having that conversation, but reading and learning about that. And that's why I think sometimes we create our partners to be who we think we want them to be. And then when they're that way, we're like, that's kind of, I'm not, haven't got my strong man anymore, or vice versa. I've got this dominating woman that's not feminine. So we've got to always get back to that masculine and feminine energy and understanding what our needs are. And I think it's, John Gray puts it so wisely, and it's like for men, it's achievement and accomplishment, So when we're doing the dishes, how many times a day, or doing different things, when they do the dishes, they're like a rooster with their, feathers coming up at the back when you say, oh, thanks so much for doing the dishes. It's about acknowledging them and appreciating them. And I think for a woman, one of the core things, there's lots, but one is we need to be heard and understood. It doesn't mean you need to agree with us. It doesn't mean that we want you to fix and solution us. We just want to be heard and understood. And we ourselves, as we talk, I feel like women talk and they listen at the same time to themselves, and they come up with the solution themselves. So we're not needing you to do that, but we do want you to hear us, because we can talk and we can think and we can hear ourselves and start calming ourselves down. And whereas a man, if he interrupts and tries to fix and solution, which he's only, my husband says, but I love you. I just want to help you. And I'm like, I don't want you to help me. I know what to do. I just want you to hear and understand. So because we know a lot of these things, I'll say to Michael, I don't want you to do anything right now. This is one of those times where I just need you to hear and understand me. I need to just release this. and I just need you to listen. And so he listens, and sometimes he needs reminders, but he'll listen. Like, I'll prepare it. I'll set it up powerfully. And he'll just go, gosh, sounds like you've had a really shitty day, and I'll go, yeah, it was. And I feel so much better, and I'm off. He's like, damn, that was easy,
Well, you did that like an hour ago.
Literally.
Yeah.
And I've learned through my own self-awareness that I label that behavior now, like, hey, Nath, can I just verbally process something with you? And I'll just go on my spiel about, this is what I'm thinking I'm going to do. I'm pretty sure I've already come to a decision, so I'm not really asking for opinion. I'm just trying to like validate it for myself. And I will frame it like that. Hey, can I verbally process this with you? And then Nath will say yes, or can we do that later? Or like whatever the thing is, because I'm very good at interrupting him when he's having his time. But yeah, I really want to come back to something that you said around like the household division of labor and like the masculine and the feminine and that part. I think I'm such a huge advocate for having these conversations. And I think one of the challenges is that the model that we had of the man does everything outside of the house and then the woman does everything inside of the house. And then now we've kind of flipped that, and there's a lot of gray area of like, we're not really sure who's, air quotes, meant to do that. And I just want to encourage all couples to come up with something that feels good for them. It doesn't have to look a particular way, but have the conversations about household division of labor and make sure that it feels good for you. Don't worry about what it looks like to the outside world. What feels good for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just saying, I've, spoken to many couples, and I remember, one person said, I tell you what, I absolutely hate ironing and I hate doing the dishes. And so their partner said, great, well, I'll do the ironing and the dishes. And she said, I'll cook, I'll wash the clothes, I'll do all of that, but I just hate ironing and doing dishes. So when you have those conversations, sometimes it can be really clear, and it can be great for the other partner to also pick that up. So that's really good to do. And even now, it depends upon the phase of your life as well. We've been empty nesters for a while, which is great. Like, you can run around the house nude again. Like, it's so good.
Well, you can do that with kids.
Well, you can, but you have to go, Rudy run,
Incoming.
Yeah.
And so Michael, I remember when the kids moved out, it was like, Rudy run. It's like, they're not here anymore.
Be nude wherever you want.
But, I just think that it depends where you are at your life, So now Michael's cooking an amazing salmon dinner right now while I'm on this podcast. And the great thing is the variety is there now, where the last person out of the bed makes it. Damn, I get out of bed so much quicker now.
You don't want to be left with it. Oh, I like that rule. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely set the rules. But also remember, I know for me, Michael started to take on quite a lot. And it wasn't until, I'm always doing check-ins, I realized that I felt like I was missing that feminine. I felt like there was things I weren't doing now that just felt like I didn't have that. So I said to him, look, I think I'll take back a bit more of this, because I feel like I need to get in and do my little fiddling and cleaning and whatnot. So there were different things to be aware of as well, and the other thing, being older, I can look at all my bad things that I did. When I didn't feel good enough, when I was younger, Michael might say, do you know where that shirt is? Have you ironed it? And so I'd be just like, no, I don't know where that shirt is. Oh, you didn't tell me there. And you get all upset. But what it is that I was thinking, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm a wife. I've just got married. I should have everything perfect. I should have everything ironed and everything perfect and cooked and 5-course meal and all these things as a newlywed. And I remember I used to get so defensive and upset. And he's just like, what's going on? I'll iron it myself. Like, I haven't got a problem with that. So I think what's really important in a relationship, especially in a new relationship, don't always think that the other person is expecting you to be as amazing as you think you need to be as a female.
I had a conversation with a friend recently, and a friend of theirs was going through this where they'd never actually had a conversation about, like, how do you like to spend your evenings? Like, when we've both come home from work, like, how do you really like to enjoy your evenings? And the male in this couple was like, oh, I just like to potter around and flitter between, sort of this project and that project. And I'm just, just tinkering with little things. And then the female in that relationship was like, oh, I just like to veg out. I like to watch my show, have some dinner, very chill evening. And she was observing his behavior of, like, flittering around the house doing things that she felt that that's what she should be doing. And then there was this underlying thing of, like, oh, that's not what I want to be doing, but now I'm doing it, and I've got all these tasks that he seems to have given me. But they'd never had a conversation about it. Like, this is what relaxation looks like for me. This is what relaxation looks like for me. And that they're totally different, and that's okay. And I have no expectation of you to do it my way and me to do it your way. But such a simple conversation that neither of them had thought to have, and yet it was creating all this angst in their relationship.
Yeah, and that's it. It's communication, because she's probably sitting there going, oh, I can't lay here. I'm guilty. If I'm sitting here watching a show, I'm feeling guilty. He probably doesn't give a hoot. It's all her internal dialogue going, I feel guilty, but that conversation's cleared it up. And that's why I say, communication is key. You just got to have those conversations. And even if it's, hey, I was just wondering, when I do this, do you care? Because this is how I relax. And, having those conversations, I'm just interested. What's your thought on this? And it can just be that little bit of inquisitive talk, because for me, it was like, sometimes when we get upset, I go, we have this thing when we go, what was that really about? Because it's never that end, it's like if someone comes home and the woman's probably, especially if you've got kids, running around with kids, doing this, they forgot that it was dress up day, and then this went wrong and that went wrong and all these things went wrong. And then the husband walks in the door and he might turn around and you said, who left those shoes at the front door? I nearly tripped over them. And then the woman explodes, right? And it's not about that one comment they made. It's about all the little things that went wrong. And rather than him going, wow, like she's a crazy woman or whatever, he might just need to say, hey, Dust, sounds like you had a really hard day. Do you want to talk about it? And if she just sort of releases it and lets it go, she's going to go, oh, my God, he's so wonderful. He's so beautiful, and fall in love more. Whereas if he just goes, what's your problem? I think it's just being aware that all those little things, it takes a lot for a woman. All those little things have built up, and that one last thing. But usually it's she's beating herself up or whatever's gone on. So I think it's just that communication. What's really going on? Is there something else you want to talk about? Things like that. So it's definitely key is communication and inquiring. Hey, I was wondering, when you do this, how do you do that? Great thing to do.
And one of the other things I love about this too is that having these conversations about what we like and what we don't like and how to kind of divide and split things up is that you might find things that you just both absolutely hate, and you can get someone else to do that. You can hire someone to do that. Like, you don't need to be doing all this stuff yourself that you really hate. And if it's really dragging all of you down, then just get someone else to do it.
100%. I'm always a believer of do what you're good at and outsource the rest. And even with that, we've got gardeners that come. I am definitely do not take after my mum. I do not have a green thumb. But we've got beautiful gardens that we both, Michael and I, all walk through. And love, and all the beautiful flowers and everything. But we pay a gardener to do it.
Yeah. And I think those conversations are really important, even if it's acknowledging that we don't always want it to be this way. Like, there's things that in mine and Nate's household that we would love to outsource. Like, we both aren't that great at cleaning. Like, don't really like, not really that great at. Same as laundry, don't really like, not that great at. And we would love to outsource that on a full-time basis, but we can't right now. We don't have the financial means to invest in that. But we know that it's something that we want to work towards. So it totally changes the conversation of like, okay, well, for now, it's going to be your role or my role. And we're going to make sure that the burden is never too long. That task doesn't sit with one person for too long, because we both know that we both don't like it. And this is our plan to how we're going to generate that extra income to pay for that thing, because we both hate it and it's draining on our time and our relationship. So we know that that's a problem we need to solve. I think those conversations create opportunities to go like, okay, it doesn't have to be like this. What's our plan to make it different?
Yeah, and I think it's even variety, in lots of things. It's, another thing that's a good point in relationships is making sure that you're doing what you like to do together, but also that you like to do apart, or catching up with friends. I think a lot of younger couples, they get together, and I think what made us so strong is that it wasn't just us. Sometimes with my girlfriends, they've had couples where they're so dependent on each other. And this can even be in the girlfriend-boyfriend stage. They're so dependent on each other that if they break up, their whole life is devastated because they've not kept up with old friends. They've not gone and done anything on their own. They've not stayed playing in the netball club or the football club or whatever that might be, and they've just given up everything by their relationships. To me, that's an unhealthy relationship, even though people might go, oh, they're so close, they're together all the time. It's unhealthy. It's dependency. And so with Michael and I've gone and done charity bike rides in Thailand. He knows I love going and working with orphanages, and I've been up and done, crazy things like an 800-kilometer bike ride through Thailand. And
is that the hands across the water one?
That's it.
Yeah, wow. Congratulations. I love that you've done that.
Yeah.
That's such a huge commitment.
It was huge, believe me. I mean, the funny thing was too, when I met Peter Baines and I said to him, oh my gosh, how can I help? And he said, you just need to get on your bike. And I'm like, okay, get on my bike, all right? That means I'm going to get onto it, and what am I going to do? He goes, no, literally, you've got to get on your bike. We're going to do a bike ride. And I remember going to grab my bike out to do some training, and it still had the baby seat on it. And my daughter
don't have a baby anymore.
Was like, I think she was about 19 or no, she was even more than that. So it had been a long time. So yes, I've done the bike ride, but I remember I did a second bike ride, crazy, right? Did 800 and then went back and did 500 with the blueprint ride. And I said to Michael, I want you to be at this one. Like, it's really good. And of course I had all this stuff that I was taking because it was to go up to the AIDS orphanage at the top. So I sent him all this moisturizer in his suitcase and said to him, you can only pack one short and T-shirt because I've got to take all this stuff over there. And, and he got over there, and it was up the top. There's no shopping there. None, right?
Yeah.
And so he lived in that for 3 days until we could get back down to Bangkok. But he met me there. Now, he didn't want to do – it's not that he's not into exercise and riding, but he didn't want to do that ride. It wasn't his thing.
That was a Susan goal.
That was a Susan goal. But he came and supported me at the end of that ride. And then we went off and did some other things. So it's so important. What I love, love, love about Michael is he's let me still be me. I've still been me through this whole relationship. I've still been able to do my goals, my dreams. And so to do that and have a relationship, there's nothing better. He didn't marry me and wanted me to change. When he met me, I was out, I was partying, I was the life of the party, I was the extrovert and he was the introvert. And so when we change too much for each other, we actually become someone that the other person wasn't attracted to, because if we change and we mold ourselves thinking this is how they want us to be, or we allow them to do it, because sometimes we might want to change our partners and not consciously know that we're kind of changing them, and they're trying to please us and we're trying to please them, and then we become someone that we're not. So we don't like who we are, and then they don't end up liking who you are anyway. They got with you because of who you were. Don't change who you are. Just be better. And that's what made me love him more, that I didn't have to go, can I? I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this crazy bike ride. And you're like, really? And my kids are like, Mum, do you realize you're not a rider? But the passion of raising the money and giving it to the orphanage was something that was dear to my heart. But he supported me in every single thing I do. And so don't change who you are. Just become a better version of who you are, and you'll fall more and more in love with each other. That's what's really important as well, I think, that we need to be aware of. Do our own things, but still do our things together. So Michael and I still now do so much together, But then we holiday apart sometimes. I go on girls' weekends. He'll go away. We'll do things together, or we'll have different challenges that we do that are outside of each other.
Nathan and I have been really good at that, and that was something that I don't know if we just did it instinctively, but very early on in our relationship and our marriage, like we would holiday independently, and people thought it was so weird. They're like, oh, but don't you want to do that together? Like, no, I want to go to LA, Vegas, and San Fran with my girlfriends, thank you.
And I'll go hike the Kokoda track.
Yeah. And we really, I think people know that it's just a normal thing that we do now, but very early on it was like, oh, that seems weird. But no, I think that's definitely been something that's helped us foster some individual, our own network, our own interests, our own hobbies, our own goals. And I really can't recommend that enough. And it's definitely something that Nathan and I have struggled to reintroduce since our very big, long lockdown here in New South Wales last year, was that we were together nonstop for like 6 months, like working together, eating together, sleeping together, playing together, all of the things. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, we don't both have to be home all the time. Like, let's try and detangle this a little bit. You go out or I go out, or also both be home at the same time, but not in the same space. It's okay for us to do our own thing.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people have struggled since all the lockdowns. You know, I overheard the other day when we were out in the Apple store, and he said, oh, a few of them are going out for drinks, but I don't know, since COVID, I really can't be bothered. I think a lot of people need to now force themselves to actually get up and go out, because the more that you do that, then that becomes the normal. Otherwise, you can get complacent. You can get at home. You know, for me, I've got a lot of tips, right? I've been married for a long time. But for me, it's like I always still get up and do my hair and makeup. I don't live in tracksuits and just tie my hair up. My girls are the same. You know, my girlfriend the other day said, oh, my daughter's pregnant with her second child. And, you know, she said she always looks amazing. She always takes care, you know, we're away. Her husband's at home, but her hair's done, you know. So I think it's important to still always look good for each other, still dress nice.
And just for yourself, though, like how you feel when you've taken a few minutes to wash your hair, give it a blow dry, like whatever it is. Like, it's not even about the other person. It's like taking those few minutes, like self-care, grooming, presentation. And we're loved for what's on the inside, but what's on the outside really does help us embody what's on the inside.
Yeah, and sometimes it's cool to put your jammies on and hang out together, and it's cute and it's fun, but it's just about, you know, mixing it up a bit. Like I said, yeah, I'll have my active wear on, but if I wore my active wear 7 days a week, I'm sure that it'd get a bit boring for me, but a bit boring for him too. So I think it's always nice to look good for each other. Whenever we go out, Michael will say, you always look good. You know, it doesn't mean you have, like you said, 24 hours. You have to wear makeup every single day. But when we go out, I'll always make sure that I've done my hair, put on some makeup, put something on, and Michael will always compliment and different things like that. So I think it's really is important to mix it up. When someone's away, you miss them. So it's good if you do different things like that.
Susan, thank you so much for joining us and sharing a little bit about your relationship and what's working for you and what has worked for you. If there was one final tip or tool or suggestion, what would it be?
I think it's to understand our differences and to communicate with each other so that we are sharing what those differences are with our partners so that we can better understand each other and give each other what we need.
I love that. Yeah. We learned that from Tony Robbins about the role of polarity in a relationship and how important it is to have like the two opposite ends of the magnet, the positive and the negative, to create that energy in between. That's really magical. And if Nathan becomes a version of Sammy and Sammy becomes a version of Nathan, then there's no polarity at all.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So Susan, to say thank you, we've given a year's worth of seeds to help a family grow some nourishing food in Malawi. This has been made possible via our partnership with Buy One, Give One. But I would also like to give to the Hands Across the Water ride now that I know that you're a participant. So please hit me up next time you're fundraising.
And to B1G1 too. So I published Better Business, Better Life, Better World and the Legacy book with Paul Dunn and Masami.
If you look behind me, that book's on the shelf.
Yep.
So
well, we published that. So, yeah.
Thank you for bringing that into the world.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, Susan, if people want to connect with you or learn a little bit more about what you do, how can they do that?
They can visit our website at deanpublishing.com and check us out there, and then, reach out and have a chat with me. If they want to share their story or their teachings of anything, then, that's what we're here to help them do.
Awesome. Thank you, Susan.
Thanks so much.
Thanks heaps for joining us. If you love what we're doing here and want more, subscribe to the Date Forever podcast to make sure you never miss an ep. Come and hang out with us and other awesome couples who are fueling up their relationships in the Thriving Couples Collective Facebook group, or check us out at fuelcollective.com.au. Until next time, keep on dating, because better relationships equal a better world.